Welcome to this video lecture. Myself Atul Kumar, working as a assistant professor in Department of Computer Science, Rajiv Gandhi Memorial, Government College, Jogindarnagar. In this video lecture, I will discuss about basic concepts of relational database. So, in 1970, Dr. E.F. Codd defined a relational data model in his paper. The name of the paper was A Relational Model of Data for Large Shared Data Banks. So most popular relational database management system include Oracle, Sysbase of Sysbase, Informix and Unify. So RDMS include relational data structure and relational data integrity rules. So basically relational data structure contains the following concepts. The first is relation. The formal name is relation and the informal name is table. The second concept we use in relational data structure is tuple and its informal name is row or record. Third concept we used in a relational data structure is attribute and its informal name is column or field. The fourth concept is domain and it is basically the set of legal values. The fifth concept is cardinality and it is basically the number of rows that contains in the table. The sixth concept is degree and it is basically the number of columns in a particular table. Next we have a primary key. It uniquely identify each row in the table. Next we have a foreign key. It is basically a identifier that is used for reference to another table. So basically foreign key is act as a relation between two or more relations. So here the data is represented in a collection of two-dimensional tables known as tables, and each table represent a real world object such as person, place, thing or event. So in this diagram we have a table and the name of the table is employee table and it is formally called as employee relation. So the table or a relation contains four attributes. The first attribute is employee ID, then employee name, that is the employee name, post and salary. These are four columns of this relation and these four columns are called as attribute. Similarly, it contains number of rows. That first row contains E1 Rahul, clerk and 20,000. The second row contain is E2 Kapil, manager and 80,000. These rows are also called as records or tuples in terms of relational database system. Similarly, we have a domain and suppose the salary of the employee must be in between 5,000 to 1 lakh. So all the salaries are in between from 5,000 to 1 lakhs. So I will discuss one by one what is relation, what is domain, and columns or attributes or rows. The first is what is relation. So relation is basically described as a table which is organized into rows and column. So important properties of relation we have. it it has unique name for identification. So each relation in a database must have a unique name for the identification of that table or relation. So the second property it has, it does not contain a duplicate tuple or a record or a row. So all the rows or record in a relation must be unique. The third property is tuples have no specific order. So the records are in uh, any order, we store a record in a table in any order. So all the attributes are atomic. The fourth property is all the attributes are atomic, that is each cell in the relation must contain only one value. So what is a cell in a relation? So it is basically the intersection of a row and column. So this one is one cell, this one is another cell. So all the values in a cell or in one cell is single. So there are no multi value exist in any cell. So next we have attribute in relational database system. So attribute is basically the characteristic or a property of the relation. So it may appear in any order in the table. For example, in the employee table we have four attributes. Like in this diagram we have four attributes. One is employee ID, then e-name, post and salary. All are the attributes or characteristics of a relation. So the important properties of attributes are it must have name. So every attribute is represented with the help of name. No two attributes of the same relation have identical names. So no two attributes have the same name in the relation. The names of all the attributes in the relation must be different. The third property is order is irrelevant in attributes. The fourth property is null values are permitted for the attribute. So we can have a null value for the attribute provided that attribute is not a part of primary key. Next important concept in relational database is tuple. So tuple is basically the row of data items, or it is also called as record. So what are the different properties of a tuple? No two tuples are identical to each other in their all entries. So all the rows are different in a table. So like in this relation we have four rows and all the rows are identical in nature or unique from every other row. The third property is order of the tuple is irrelevant. We can just add a row in any order. Next property is all the tuples of the relation have the same format and the same name number of entries. So they follow the same format and same number of entries. Next is the definition, and the definition says the process of inserting tuples for very first time into the relation is called a populating a relation. When we insert any entry in that relation for the first time, this is called as populating a relation. Next important concept in relational database is data item. So it is basically the smallest unit of data in the relation. So it is stored in the intersection of tuples and attributes. So any value in the that is stored in the relation in a particular cell, it is called as data item. And important properties of data items include data items are atomic. That means they contain only a single value. They does not contain, or they cannot contain, a multi value. And the second property is the data items of the attribute should be drawn from the same domain. The third property is all the data items in the attribute should be of same type. Next is degree. So degree in a relational database is total number of columns or attribute that comprises a relation. So it is called as degree of the relation. For example, in this relation we have how many attributes? The first is employee ID, second is e-name, third is post, and fourth is salary. So total number of attributes in this employee table is 4. So degree of this relation or table is 4. So like the degree of the relation having n attributes, suppose we have 4 attributes, so it is called as 4 array relation. If we have n attribute, then the it is called as n array relation. The relation with having only one attribute, it is called as unary relation. Relation with two attributes, it is called as binary relation, and relation with three attributes, it is called as ternary relation. Next important concept in relation database is cardinality, and it is basically the total number of rows or tuples at any one time. So it is the basically the total number of rows at particular time. At any one time means that the number of tuples may be increased by inserting the row in the table or decreased by deleting the row in the table. So we use here at any one time. For example, at this time in this relation we have 4 rows, so the cardinality of this relation is 4. Next important concept is domain. So it refers to the possible values each attribute can contain. So the domain can be specified using standard data types such as integers, floating point numbers, fixed length strings, and variant length strings. For example, suppose we have a attribute marital status, and it is limited to only two values, married and unmarried. So we can take a value of attribute from these two values, that is married and unmarried. So it is basically the domain of this attribute marital status. So different properties of domain include: the domain of the attribute contain all the permissible values that can appear under the attribute. Next property is more than one attribute can draw the value from the same domain. Next possible property is the domain depends upon the data type declaration of the attribute. Next important property is domain size can be limited by applying a set of constraint on them. So these are some important basic concepts of relational database system. Thanks for watching this video lecture.